What's poppin' people? It's your boy Bone back again with another episode today. I have decided to call this the LBF series, so learning bass fishing. That's what this is. So this will be part 3 of the series. We're gonna talk about, okay, you've already learned how to cast, you've been doing your homework, and you finally get out to the lake. How do you know when you got a bite, or when it's a tree, or when it's a rock? If it's a bluegill biting your bait, or if it's a bass biting your bait, if it's a catfish biting your bait. You kind of need to know these things. So today we're going to attempt to talk about that. So what does a bass bite feel like? Pretty much a bass bite feels like something is tugging your line or tapping your line and you're not moving your bait, right? So let's say I cast in there and I'm reeling, and all of a sudden my bait stops and I didn't stop my bait. That's probably a bite, all right? But in order to check it, to see if it's a bite, what you do is, if your bait stops, you just stop reeling and kind of look at your line. If it's moving left or moving right or moving this way, that's a bass. So if you do see that, what you want to do is reel down a little bit, set the hook like that, right? That's what you want to do, all right? So, wow, it's a big bed of fry right here. Need to drag the jig through there. Like, that was a bluegill bite I just got. It went tap, 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 tap. That's not a bass. If your line goes tap, 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 that's not a bass, more than likely. Sometimes it can be a bass, so you always want to check if you see your line moving after that. But 9 times out of 10, that's a bluegill. Like, there's another bluegill bite. Which, even though that's not a bass, what that tells me is it's bluegill in the area. I know that's not really what we're talking about today, but part of detecting the bite is also letting you know what you're around, what's going on, stuff like that. So now that I know that I'm around bluegill, I can come back later and drag a jig around trying to catch a bass, because I know they should be over here. I'm seeing a large group of fry right here, huge group of fry. So there has to be a bass over here somewhere. And I've established that there's a bluegill over here and there's a carp swimming right here. So there's some life over here, more than what I've been seeing over here. So anyway, that backlash I was talking about, it wasn't that bad though. That really wasn't a backlash. That was me preventing the next cast from being a backlash. Another video again. So bluegill bites feel like tap, tap, tap. Bass bites feel like, all right, so I'm gonna put it like this. My trailer looks sick right now. If you're at the crib and you want to simulate what a bite feel like, what you want to do is hold your reel and then tap the butt of your rod gently, like. So like if you feel this, but you didn't do that, and you look and you see your line moving off to the left or the right, bass. 90%, 95% chance that's a bass. 5% chance it's a catfish. If you feel this, tap, 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 bluegill. 95% chance it's a bluegill, 5% chance it's a bass. Now when you set the hook and your line start going crazy like this, that's probably a catfish. If you set the hook and it just keep going one way or the other, you probably got a bass on your hands. Player, which is what you're looking for, that's what you want. So pretty much how you detect the bite, man. I'm not gonna lie, it's not that difficult, but sometimes you can be dragging your bait and you'll feel a thump, and but you notice your line is not moving. So what you want to do at that point is just lift your rod tip up like this, and then do you still feel tension from whatever it is? If you do, but your line's still not moving, chances are you're probably stuck on a rock or a tree. So at that point, you want to just, I'm not gonna say set the hook at that point, because you might set the hook into a tree or a rock and then you're stuck, but you just check. If you check twice, tension's still there, but your line's not moving, just try to get it unhung at that point. So just start kind of popping your reel, popping your line, to kind of get it unhung. And if there's something on it, it'll definitely start moving at that point. If it's still staying still, you hung up. So that's not a bite. But learning the difference between a tree and a bite and a rock and a bite is what you're gonna spend a lot of time doing when you first hit the water, till you kind of get a hang of it. Like, that's a rock right there. I know because I can see it, but also, you know, That's line. People, here's another pro tip, bro. If you get your bait hung and you can't get it out, don't cut your line. Do not. Don't cut your line, bro. Please. What you do is you reel all your slack up, you hold it with your thumb so it's very tight. You make sure your drag is tight, and then you just pull like this. You pull like this and you keep pulling until your knot breaks. Boom, your knot breaks, you reel your line in, and then you retie another bait on. That's what you do. You don't cut your line and just leave your line in the water. That's crazy, actually. Because now you're just ruining everybody else's fishing experience, including your own at a later date, because now you got fishing line stuck to a rock or a tree, wherever your bait is at, just floating in the water. And that ruins it for a lot of people, including yourself later. So don't do that, man. It's like one of my biggest pet peeves. It's also how I know when I see somebody that don't know what they're doing. So if you want to look like you don't know what you're doing, cut your line. If you want to look like you know a little bit, pull your line till your knot break. And then if for some reason it's still stuck and it's not happening, then cut your line, fine. But even then, you want to reel up as much slack as possible before you cut it. The point is, you don't want to leave line laying in the water. It's just fishing etiquette 101, which that's going to be also in this series, fishing etiquette. A lot of people just don't know. But if you follow me, you can't say you don't know after this video. Anyway, detecting the bite. That's pretty much how you detect a bite for bass, bluegill, and catfish. Because you're gonna catch a catfish at some point. I hate it because they're difficult to deal with. You can't just grab them by the mouth most of the time. Anywhere you do grab them, it's potentially harmful to your hands. So it's just not a fun time for me. They slime up your line. It's just bad, bro. There's nothing good about catching the catfish unless you want to catch them and keep them and eat them, which I don't. So for me, tragedy.
Tragic, tragic.
Also, another way to detect a bite. If you don't, because sometimes a bass will have your bait, but you didn't feel a tap, tug, nothing. Sometimes you'll cast your line in there, and here's why it's important to always have contact with your bait. Like, you want to always be able to feel your bait on the end of your line, so when you can't feel it no more, you know something is up, right? The heavier your weight, the easier it is for you to do that. So that's why I kind of like fishing with 1/2 ounce and 3/8 ounce baits, because you can feel your bait the whole time. So if you cast out there and you got contact with your bait, but for some reason, all of a sudden, it's like, dang, why I can't keep the tension on my line no more? Like, you reel down and you reel up, but your line, you can never catch up with your tension. A fish has your bait and it's swimming away from you or towards you. More than likely towards you if you lose contact with it. So what you want to do in that scenario is hook sets are free. Right? Like, hook sets are free. They don't cost you anything. They might cost you a lure if you hung on a tree, but that's fine. You know, that's why you buy multiple baits. It could be a fish though, and if you didn't set the hook, the fish might have got off. It could have been a good one. So if you lose contact with your bait, so here we go, you pitch out there, bait hits the water, it's falling down, and all of a sudden it's like, it goes like, is it still falling? Like, I can't tell. Then you reel down to check, and no matter how many times you reel down, you still got slack in your line as a bass. So what you want to do is reel down as much as you can, and then reel back and set the hook on them. That's what you want to do, because you have a bite. The line's not gonna move by itself. All right, that's just not, it's not how this works. If your line is moving and you're not moving it, you have a bite. What it is will be determined after you set the hook. But I would say 9 times out of 10, it's probably a bass. Now, I wasn't gonna talk about this, but I'm gonna talk about this. Now, after you catch the fish, all right, or after you hook the bass, you set the hook, now it's a bass on your line, it's hooked good, but you gotta get it from there to you, right? Key thing to remember about that is you wanna keep tension on your line. What I mean by tension is you want your line to be tight the whole time, right? Anytime your line goes slack, it gives the fish leverage to shake your bait off. So you wanna keep your line tight to the fish. That's what eliminate slack means, right? And you do that typically by holding your rod tip up and in the opposite direction of where it's swimming. So if your fish is swimming this way, all right, so say you're fighting him and he's coming this way, so you're good because you got your tension still on him, and then he decides to go take off that way. So what you want to do at that point is you want to switch to this side so you can keep the tension opposite of the direction he's going, all right? I hope that makes sense because I don't really know how else to explain it. So let's say you cast your bait out there. Oh Lord, I got a bite. You set the hook. The fish is running that way. So which way should I have my reel? My rod pointed that way still? No. That's the same direction he's going. So that's gonna present the opportunity to have slack in your line. So what you wanna do is eliminate that. Fish running that way, just right here. Start reeling. He starts running this way again, back over here. So anytime you see a fisherman or a bass fisherman doing this or doing that or doing this or doing that, the fish is changing direction, just running. So you want to change direction with the fish. That's how you keep tension. So you want to, like I said, whichever way the fish is going, you want to aim your rod the other way. If he's going that way, go this way. If he's going that way, go this way. It's pretty simple, right? It's pretty simple, but you gotta, it's simple now that there's not a fish on your line and you're out there practicing. When you get a fish on there, your brain can sometimes lock up on you and you just forget. All right, it just happens. So this is why you want to practice the muscle memory of catching bass, and sometimes even imagining you're catching bass. All right, and then just practice. Reel your bait in like this, reel your bait in like this, just so you can get used to reeling both ways, right? Short video today, but that's it as far as, that's pretty much, I don't know what else to tell you as far as detecting a bite. It's just kind of one of them things that when you get on the water and you start getting bites, then you'll understand it more. But those are pretty much the basic things to look for. You feel me? Which my dog Larry June just dropped a song called "You Feel Me." I'm like, I knew he was cool, man. That's pretty much my catchphrase, low key. In real life and in these videos, sometimes I edit that "you feel me" out, but hopefully if y'all following me, you won't judge me and think I'm crazy. I just like to talk like that, you know what I mean? My mama probably don't like it, but I love you, Mom. I'm smart, I just like to talk like I'm not sometimes. It's fun like that. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. And then, you know, share the channel out to somebody you think might be interested in the content that I got going on over here. And yeah, man, hope y'all able to get out on the water soon, catch some bass. But to the next part in the LBF series, I'm out. Hey.